In Valorant, 22 agents have been released up until now. Some of them excel in more situations than others, but each and every one of them has at least one skill that makes him or her unique in comparison. I'd like to give you an idea of why no agent should be counted out as unplayable, but you will also learn about their weaknesses, so maybe you can counter them properly. This video is divided into 4 parts, each of them representing one of Valorant's 4 classes. There is no map on which any team that really tries to win would consider renouncing a controller agent. Controllers, sometimes referred to as smokers, are the backbone of a squad. Mostly you will find only one of them per team, but there are maps like Bind or Pearl where the double controller meta has been defined.
They think I'm an old dog? I'll show them just how many tricks I know.
Brimstone is the only agent in the game who can place 3 smokes at the same time. This makes him incredibly useful in well-orchestrated attacks that allow no second attempt. On the flip side, Brimstone's smoke range is limited, which might be a problem on defense since you can't play him as an anchor on one side of the map and help your mates by smoking off the other spot.
I am on a higher plane, Charlie. Literally.
Astra, however, excels in those situations. She can smoke everywhere at any time. With her ability to pull her stars back and use them again, she's very versatile. But in order to place her stars that can be developed into smokes, stuns or pulls, she needs to completely leave her body and enter a different sphere, which makes her incredibly vulnerable for that period of time.
I am the beginning. I am the end.
Omen is the only smoker that can also near-sight enemies. On top of that, he is the only agent in the game that can easily regain control over a lost spike deep behind enemy lines with his ultimate ability. But Omen is kind of weak in his core ability compared to the other smokers. He can only smoke twice at the same time, is more vulnerable when doing that, and is a little limited in range.
No one can hold their breath forever.
Viper got a very special kit. The fact that her poison reduces the enemy's hit points makes her a monster in post-plants. On top, she is the only controller that can switch the abilities on and off. Once set to place, both her toxic screen and her poison cloud are a nuisance the whole round. But this big strength is also her weakness. While the orb can be at least retained, her wall is not flexible. You can't use it elsewhere again.
Together, we'll crush them.
Harbor is a true smoking specialist since he has it all. A long side-blocking wall, space-taking cascades that isolate angles, and even a bulletproof cove. His downside is that besides smokes, there is nothing else he can provide. No mollies, no blinds, no stuns. Harbor is all about blocking line of sight. If you are a player that usually likes to play Duelists or Initiators, go with Omen when being forced into the controller spot. Sentinel mains might feel more comfortable with Viper or Astra. Duelist is for sure the most favored role in Valorant. There are multiple reasons for that. Duelists often get the most kills, the highest combat score, and the best YouTube clips. The biggest stars in Valorant esports are Duelist mains, and people like to think of themselves as stars, you know?
Just take a seat. I got this.
Phoenix's kit is often described as lackluster. Everything he can do, others can do better, they say. But what is certainly special about him is his versatility. His flash is pretty good, his wall can block line of sight, his molly can clear cubbies, and his ultimate is very cheap for a riskless attempt. His weakness is his inability to close gaps, which is very important for duelists.
Cool. Let's go.
Jett is the definition of an insane gap-closing agent. Her dash is not only good for holding off angles with operators, but also for entering sites quickly while getting support from her teammates. Her biggest weakness might be that she herself is her kit and she requires quick thinking. That means that an unexperienced player could easily pull the trigger at the wrong time, ending up in an unescapable situation.
Yes, I'm pumped.
Raze's utility looks so easy and lethal put into the right hands. Boombot, grenade and ultimate do the damage on their own. No need to learn difficult lineups or complex mechanics. Her satchels need practice though. They can do more harm than good for your team if used incorrectly.
They have no idea how heartless I am.
Reyna is a beast when played by a constant fragger. She excels in combat, but only if you're hitting your headshots. Otherwise, she doesn't do much for the team, which is why she is seen as a solo queue agent. You need to be fearless when picking her up. Reyna gets countered by lots of utility.
I'll fight anybody. I'll fight everybody.
Yoru is designed to create chaos among the enemies. With his clones, flashes, teleports, which can be fake as well, and his ultimate dimensional drift, he got all the necessary tools in his kit. On the other hand, he is forced to bamboozle his opponents, and if he fails to do so because they are experienced enough to recognize what he's doing, he won't achieve much. There is no plan B.
Move or get zapped.
Neon can close gaps pretty good as well when using her slide. What she does best, however, is to appear somewhere unexpectedly. Her sprinting ability High Gear ignores all common timings, but her pace can also backfire. When Neon overheats, she might deviate from her team and gets lost in enemy territory. If you want to try to play Duelist as an Initiator main, do not fear to pick up flashes like Phoenix or Yoru. When you're switching from Controller or Sentinel, you might want to go with Reyna or Raze, who can be played at a slower pace. Gathering information and flashing enemies is the job of Initiators. They create space for the Duelists and the rest of the squad by supporting them with utility. Usually you can find at least one Initiator per team, but there are maps like Ascent, for example, where double or even triple Initiator is not uncommon.
Wherever they run, I will find them.
Sova's strength is his ability to reveal enemies anywhere on the map, given the fact that you know some essential lineups. Always be ready to shoot his Wreck and Dart, whether it's for your own safety or for your teammates. His biggest weakness might be that he has no ability to blind or nearsight his enemies like every other Initiator, which makes it harder to clear close corners.
Stand in my way. I dare you.
Breach has lots of utility to create space. He can clear cubbies with his Aftershock, stun a long corridor and flash corners without knowing any lineups. On top of that, his ultimate Rolling Thunder can win rounds all on its own. But what Breach can't do is gathering reliable information without peeking. He has no piece of utility that reveals enemies and their plans.
Alright, where's the fight?
Skye, however, combines Breach's strength and weakness, since her flash also tells her when it blinds someone. It does not reveal the enemy's exact locations though, neither does it expose the amount of enemies in that area. On top of that, you can hear Skye's flash clearly when it approaches, which makes it easier to turn away from.
Let's do this.
When KO uses his flash, this is much harder to do. Especially when the KO player is familiar with some pixel flash lineups, it is almost impossible to dodge it. His signature ability 0 Point and his ultimate are the only ways to suppress enemies in Valorant, making them unable to use their abilities. But they can still shoot unharmed, so you shouldn't fear his knife too much.
Everyone is afraid of something.
Fate is a master at deafening opponents. 3 of her 4 abilities can do that, in addition to other effects, while her signature ability reveals enemies that are easier to deafen afterwards because of the trail that it created. While deaf enemies are weaker, they are not blind and can still find your head in combat. Her prowlers might have the nearsight effect, but Fate is unable to fully flash opponents.
Watch way. My crew is coming through.
Gekko can't do that as well, because his Dizzy only affects the center of the screen and is dodgeable. But on the other hand, he has at least 2 unique ways of playing. Wingman is the only ability in the game that can plant and defuse the spike for you, turning a 1v1 into a 2v1. On top of that, Gekko is the only agent in Valorant who can recollect 3 of his 4 abilities. Being more familiar with Duelists, you should consider KO because he is pretty good at flashing for himself and his knife doesn't really need lots of practice. When you're looking for a slower and more strategical approach, go with Sova or Breach. In Valorant, denying space is just as important as creating or taking space. Sentinels are masters of controlling certain areas of the map on their own. With their variety of tools to spot the enemy's moves, at least one of them is an essential pick for any team.
Relax, I've already thought of everything.
Killjoy is a sentinel you simply cannot hide from. Even if you manage to outmaneuver her turret, her alarm bot will spot you no matter what. Her downside is that she needs to stay in range of her utility to make it work, so the lack of global presence is her weakness.
Nothing stays hidden from me. Nothing.
Cypher, on the other hand, masters global presence. 2 well-placed trapwires and his spy camp can secure half of the map on their own. Being revealed by both abilities when blundering into them forces his enemies to play slowly. These strategic engages are Cypher's weakness because when his cam and his traps are gone, there is not much he can do to stop a push.
I am both shield and sword.
Sage represents another style of Sentinel. Her abilities can control certain areas as well, but neither her Ice Wall nor her Slow Field last very long. In contrast to Killjoy and Cypher, her kit needs to be used reactionary to tap its full potential. What makes her unique is her capability to revive dead teammates with her ultimate.
You have good taste, my friend.
Chamber's kit is often referred to as being more Duelist-like. Both his Headhunter ability and his ultimate provide additional firepower, which means to live a Sentinel's life, Chamber needs to deny access to certain areas by himself. His trademark is only a small compensation, which makes his team more vulnerable to lurks. What is special about him is his signature ability Rendezvous, which makes him the best operator agent in the game.
Death is not an option.
Deadlock is the latest addition to Valorant's family. Though she has global presence with her sonic sensors, she is not particularly good at watching flanks. The unique thing in her kit is the ultimate Annihilation, which makes enemies feel completely helpless. It requires some kind of friendly fire to free them. When switching to the Sentinel role, patience is your best friend. When you are used to early gunfights, go with Chamber. Former controller mains might have an easier start on Cypher or Killjoy, whereas Initiator mains could try Sage or Deadlock. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more guides like that, feel free to like and subscribe this channel. See you next time.